What if it's true? What if this Bitcoin and cryptocurrency bull run hasn't even really started? The ETF pump, the Trump pump, is an aberration and a mirage in the desert. The correction when Bitcoin fell from 109 to 74K wasn't a picnic. And if you're holding alts, I know the pain, guys, but look, my feelings, your feelings, none of that shit matters. What matters is what the data is telling us. Cold, hard, raw facts. And what if the data is telling us that we've seen nothing yet and that the real phase of the bull market hasn't even begun yet, but it could be right around the corner? Sound crazy? Or do you think it's insane just because you're so hurt from PTSD and cynicism and months of having basically just being punched in the face nonstop? Well, only you can make the determination for yourself. But before you do, let's take a fresh look at some new data and models where we can expect Bitcoin to peak by the end of the cycle, and we'll see where the chips, and by chips I mean numbers, end up landing. So let's start off with a favorite, the Pi cycle top indicator, the classic of classics. Look, this indicator nailed the past two cycle tops with incredible accuracy. So I think the odds are pretty decent that it does it again. And I know you're thinking, well, Lark, won't everybody just sell when that happens? No, nobody's going to sell when that happens. They'll think, well, this time's a false indicator. Look what a genius I am. Numbers keep going up. I'm a genius. Everything's great. Long it all. Now, if you're unfamiliar with the Pi cycle indicator, what we're watching is for the orange moving average line to touch or cross the green one. Right now, the orange line's at 91K, the green's at 155K. So the last two cycle peaks, you can see when Bitcoin starts its parabolic runs, the orange line quickly shoots up to touch the green. So for our current cycle, if history were to rhyme again, then we should see this happen within the next 6 months, maybe 8 or 9 months. So that puts us at basically December, something like that. 4-year cycle, spot on as usual. Since we know the green line's at 155K, we know that Bitcoin's peak must be higher than 155K, assuming, of course, that the Pi cycle top indicator nails the top again. Now, here's another look at this indicator. Well, actually, but before we get into that, guys, look, if you're wanting to trade the crypto markets, but you're tired of exchanges that block your country, demand endless KYC bullshit, freeze your funds without warning, wish you could just trade fast, simple, secure, without any of the nonsense, yeah? Well, guess what? BitUnix is built for you. You can trade from anywhere. No KYC, no VPN, no hassle. You're going to get $10 for free just for signing up, exclusively using the link right down below here in the description, plus $400 in deposit bonuses and $500 in trading rewards. So that's only exclusively when you use the link down below. So click on that link, get started. If you're ready for an exchange that actually respects its traders, BitUnix is where you want to start. You can long, short, buy spot altcoins, and more. Sign up today, claim your bonuses, link down below. Let's have a look at this analysis here from CryptoCon, which, by the way, shout out to CryptoCon. Go follow him on X. We'll be looking at several of his charts today. He's a crypto data scientist who's been sharing some fantastic charts and fantastic insights. So look, CryptoCon gives a nice, unique perspective on this particular indicator by measuring the gap between the orange and the green lines. Once prices have passed the previous cycle's all-time high. So you can see that when this happened in May 2017, there was a 46% gap between the two lines. When it happened again in December of 2020, there was a 48% gap. But right now, there's a 56% gap. So TLDR here is that according to this indicator, we're not even close to the cycle's all-time high. And the peak can't be any lower than 155K. Think about that. The next chart here is the golden ratio multiplier. Now this one is pretty simple. This chart takes a series of multiplied moving averages and then starts removing them one by one to account for Bitcoin's diminishing returns over time. So if you look carefully, you can see that Bitcoin each cycle hits one lower moving average than the cycle before. So for this cycle, that red line is the target. That is currently coming in at $155,000. Fascinating. Now, we already hit that red line back in 2024 and Bitcoin bumped past 70K, so one could worry that perhaps this means the top is already in. Maybe that's possible, but it would be out of line with most other models, okay? So I think it's more reasonable to assume that we hit it early when Bitcoin pumped due to the ETF launches, and that we've still got more upside to go. Post-Bitcoin halving, perhaps it becomes a more relevant time to watch for this indicator to hit the next signal. Now, CryptoCon's diminishing golden curves, which is a very similar model to the golden ratio one, shows the cycle top +2 multiplier is our target for this cycle, and that has not been hit yet. The target there is $186,000 for late 2025. Also note that this model takes into account the timing here of the actual cycle highs and the cycle lows, and that is basically projecting that the next major cycle bottom is going to be late in 2026, which would basically fit up with the 4-year model. Now, our next model is the Puell multiple phases. So go and Google Puell multiple and Bitcoin if you want to go for a bit of a deeper dive here and have a bit more understanding of really what all this is and what the model is actually signifying. But just for now, okay, keep it simple. Know that the key to unlocking this model is comparing Bitcoin's major cycle price phases at the top to the Puell multiple phases at the bottom. So basically, if we don't see the Puell multiple line meaningfully cross above the red line for a significant period of time during the cycle, then it would be the first in Bitcoin's history. But if history rhymes again, and we do get that significant cross above the red line, then this model is projecting a cycle top for Bitcoin somewhere up around $130,000 to $300,000, which okay, that's a huge range, guys. My personal opinion's been around 250K, 200 to 250K approximately for a cycle top here for Bitcoin. And some of these earlier models looked at could be exceeded simply based on US Bitcoin reserve speculation hype, pushing us beyond the sort of standard diminishing returns theory you might see. Now, last chart for today, the money flow index reset. So this model measures how much money is flowing in or out of Bitcoin. This then tracks how Bitcoin's price responds. And you can see that when there's a flow of money out of Bitcoin, so long as the flow is a healthy reset, as signified basically by the flows staying above that midway bar at the bottom of your screen, then that means that Bitcoin's price rips higher afterwards. But when that money flow chart drops below the midway bar, prices tend to dump even more beyond that. Well, here's lucky for us, okay? This most recent reset where we saw Bitcoin go to $74,000. Guess what? The outflows remained well above the midway line. And there's also other things coming in. Basically a beautiful retest of the 50-week EMA, which as long as you bounce off that line, it's all good. It's the scariest when you bounce off the line because, you know, if you lose the line, it's all over. But if you bounce off the line, we're so back, baby. We bounced, by the way. So you know what all this means? Guys, look, we looked at 5 different models today, 4 of which gave us some kind of bull price target or range. And when we get to the average, we get around $181,000. Now, if that number hits, that's close to a 100% return on Bitcoin from the current prices within the next 6 to 8 months, let's say. Pretty good, right? Now, that's not even accounting for all the other stuff, some of the gains that will be made from the altcoin market, which is going to be way more significant. If Bitcoin only goes up 100% from here to then, man, altcoins are going to go way higher. Even Ethereum might, well, probably not Ethereum, but Solana certainly will do better returns than Bitcoin. A lot of other coins too. Now, maybe Bitcoin does get to 250K by the end of the cycle. Let's just say 180K though. 180K price target. Is that crazy by the end of the year? Well, it might look like it on the charts right now. I think that's too nuts, Lark. That's not going to happen. 109K was the top, and we're never going over $109,000 ever again. A parabolic move like this one is going to rip a lot of faces off. And guess what? This is basically what Bitcoin's done every single cycle. Now, there are some watching this video who are actively planning for a move just like this to really happen. I'm one of those people. I hope you are too. Believe in something, guys. Believe in Bitcoin. Believe that this cycle is far from over because all the data is showing that this recent move was a relatively standard market correction pushed by growth scares and tariff fears and all that kind of bullshit. Sure, but we had a bullish retest of the 50-week EMA. Basically, none of the top indicators have flashed. In fact, almost none of the top indicators at all have flashed. It's interesting, right? Keep paying attention, stay locked in. This cycle, in my opinion, still has a lot of great price action to offer for us. Thanks for watching.